Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The first round of VCT Masters Toronto playoff stage has officially concluded. Big drama as a result of this. 4 matches played, 4 matches won by the second seeded team. The team that came through the Swiss stage, dominating on many occasions. The team that came through as the first seed from the playoffs in their region. This has caused massive drama last night. Many of the teams deeply frustrated about the way that this format presently works. Frustrations with Riot getting called out from multiple angles going into potentially the rest of this bracket. And we talk about some teams maybe catching fire in the losers bracket. Well, every single number 1 team will have to do that if they want to make a run to this championship. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Some cool images coming out of yesterday. Let's dive right in. Rumours about Vitality. We know that they're looking to blow up their roster potentially. Well, they pretty much have done so already. Looking at Kovac potentially to come into Vitality. So they're making some changes. They formed the super team at the start of the season. Did it work? Well, initially it showed an awful lot of promise. Then as time rolled on, things got slightly more questionable for that team and they haven't really changed to the present day. So they're looking to make changes. We'll see what actually happens in due course, of course, on that front. These were the top players of the Valorant Masters so far, so the MVP race effectively of the tournament. And I will say it's kind of remarkable how pretty much all of these players are from different teams. Like you get Texture from Gen.G, Spring from Wolves, Zekken from Sentinels, Huzi from BLG, Happyway from XLG, of course, not only played 1 series, but still a good series, Jing from PaperX, Verno from MIBR even, and then you get to Juicy. So it takes you all the way down to 8th until you find a player on the same team as any other player. Kind of remarkable. Then you've got Caron, and then of course you've got Trent from G2. But right now those teams will, certainly Trent, will need to make a bit of a run through the losers bracket, and we'll see how that might go in a second. Speaking of G2, thought it was pretty funny, right? Because Zekken and Zelsis, they gave a few words on G2. And look, obviously these words here from Zelsis were very much so tongue-in-cheek, right? Like he was just joking around, really. The fact that they lost to PaperX is embarrassing. I think they need to be eliminated. We talked about these clips yesterday. I thought it was pretty funny. Leaf thought it was pretty funny as well and was like, wow, why are people so offended by this? It was the obvious troll ever. 10 out of 10 rage bait, right? So, Zelsis is like, it's not rage bait, screw you. You guys are terrible. So, I thought this is all really pretty good stuff. But the big drama, of course, of yesterday was what happened on the server. But actually, as a result of that, Patman has made a rather major mistake, as he says, hey guys, I made the ultimate rookie mistake and misplaced my mouse. Can anyone tell me where I can buy the Vaxi mouse in Canada? Need it ASAP, so is there a physical store in Toronto that I can go and buy the thing from? Now, this is a rookie mistake because I know that a lot of players, they will travel not just with one mouse or let's say with a controller, but with multiple, just in case it goes missing or it gets stolen or you lose it or it breaks or whatever. You've always got to have a backup. And I think that Patman will probably never come to an event again without a backup mouse at this point because, this, of course, caused a bit of an issue. But it got 1 million views, 18,000 likes. People are like, damn, can we get this guy some help? And, the company that actually makes the mouse reached out and said, sorry, it's not possible to buy or ship it in time. We're looking at ways to help you locally. And then they said, okay, we got it. Our friend's going to reach out to you. We found one in Toronto. We're going to go drop it off at the front door, whatever. And so it looks like PaperX might be back in business just in time because that would not be ideal for sure going into the rest of the tournament for them. But of course, they already got their victory as the second seed coming from the losers bracket, and we'll see how that looks in a second as things go on to transpire. But this was a massive result. Wolves Esports played RRQ, and not only did they win a map in this series, but they won the whole damn series. And it's really cool for Wolves. Look, I don't know which series of the 4 most indicates the issue with the number 1 seed. This may be one of them. I don't know what you guys think in the comments because, maybe like Wolves are legit. We talked about it even going into the tournament. The Wolves are a bit of a dark horse team. I've liked this team for some time. We talked about them being a bit of a dark horse going in, but after they lost to Sentinels, it was like, Sentinels played a bit sloppy. It wasn't great from Wolves either, so we'll see. But that's kind of how it goes. Your first match in these tournaments, in this LAN environment, you're expected to be a bit sloppy, and that's one of the reasons why the Tier 1 or Seed 1 drama has caused so much controversy over the last couple of days. So Wolves get the 2-0 dub against RRQ. It was a really close series. Crazy Guy had a particularly hard time on the RRQ side, but yeah, number 1 seed RRQ coming out of the Pacific, turn up to this tournament, and so far it's not really gone to plan. 13-11 to Wolves on the Ascent, and then 13-8 on the Icebox. It was looking also good for RRQ, but then a dominant attacking side. Juicy was going off on the Jet as well. what a result from Wolves, right? They're catching fire, they're catching some serious momentum. As Stufat says, I really want to tell Zeltis this. I'm so glad that on that day, even though I was really tired after watching VODs in my room and practicing, I decided to go to the gym. Grateful that I met him. Because of him, I don't feel nervous stepping onto the stage for the first time. He gave me energy. After we lost to Sentinel, Zeltis told me we'll probably meet again. And I thought if I want that to happen, I've got to make it to the playoffs. So I reviewed every mistake that I made, every map, every call, every positioning I wanted to improve. I want to see him again, and I'm truly thankful for that. So honestly, really cool story. And we'll see if we do get Sentinels versus Wolves again in this tournament, because right now it is absolutely possible. Now, the second series was pretty dramatic, especially because of this in-venue power outage. They had an issue in the venue, they paused the show, and certainly the way that Gen.G see it is that it rather interrupted their flow, and there's lots of talk even from G2. It's like, damn, we could have used one of them. Who tripped the wire? Can we get a Sova shock or whatever? So, lots going on there, right? Definitely unfortunate. It's one of those things that maybe there's not too much you can really do about it, but at the end of the day, it kind of is what it is. But Gen.G played Fnatic and they got the win 2-1. And this was, look, we talked about it yesterday. I had Gen.G getting the win. At least I got some of my predictions right in the first round. But, maybe in hindsight, I should have just simply picked all the teams winning from the second seed. But Gen.G won this one pretty emphatically in the end. The Haven was 13-11. They then lost the split, as I say, some drama here happening due to the power outage and everything. They won that one, Fnatic 14-12. So it was still all going on. Fox and I with a difficult map here on the game too. But when it mattered on the sunset, Gen.G just really handled business and looked like the far more comfortable team. Boaster had 4 kills. I know that there was lots of criticism of Boasters calling this series, let's just say taking their time rather a lot, and maybe that's not always going to work out. So that was the strategy that they employed, and it was a strategy that ended up failing. Texture and Foxy9 in the final map combined for 42 frags. Not that much you're going to do about that. And Gen.G, after looking really promising, of course, we talked about G2 being the favourites, but, I had Gen.G pretty much going all the way here. Fnatic down to the first round of losers, not looking good for EMEA on a number of different angles. But the real takeaway for many people is like, look, whatever you want to say about the quality of play in this series, why this team is better than that team, why they outplayed this team, whatever, you can look at it a number of different ways. The conclusion that, I would be drawing is that, okay, we've played 4 matches in the first round. Every single match has gone to the team that did not come through as the number 1 seed. And it's unlikely that that is purely a coincidence, right? It is highly unlikely, and there's lots of talk that, okay, is this a problem that needs to be solved? Valin says, first seed curse has happened again. And there was lots of comment, especially from the coaches. The players, as yet, probably don't want to talk too much about it, but the coaches certainly do. As Zix says from 100T, the first seed from every region are now lost after a bye week while watching other teams play. So this is the question, right? The advantage theoretically is you get a bye, so you automatically qualify top 8 bare minimum, which is good, right, on paper. And also you get to watch every other team play, so you get to prepare nicely. But the best prep is experience. And that's what Zix says. Having reps in a new environment matters far more than any preparation advantage in my experience. There are too many factors in playing on a new stage. Comfort is king. So Zix believes that it is straight up a disadvantage to play as the number 1 seed right now, because you give up that kind of experience gap that is very relevant to the teams. Josh RT from G2 says the same thing. For the second Masters, is there a format where the first seeds still play in the group stage, please, basically? Skipping straight to the playoffs doesn't feel like much of an advantage in a tournament like this. I'm sure most first seeds would rather play groups. And I think that, G2 seem to be a team that would do that. I think it's been a bit of a question over the last few days. I know that Kaplan was asked about it. He was like, look, would you prefer to play in the group stage or go straight through to the playoffs? And it seems like he was in favour of, saying, look, the format is currently probably fine as it is. It does give you some advantage getting the bye. Sure. But if you ask the teams to really choose, it seems like G2 would actually choose to stay in the group stages. And the reason for that, they'll kind of describe here in a second. Tournament momentum is real. Now that I've experienced both sides, I would rather play group stage and take the championship points and trophy as the real reward from winning our region. I get that Riot only has limited venue days, but I don't have a clear solution here. Because, of course, you want to win the region to matter, right? But Josh RT says, look, the trophies are rewards. The championship points are a good reward. We don't need to be getting this theoretical advantage at the major tournaments because it's actually not an advantage at all. And, Doug says in the replies, okay, is it not worth the benefit of not potentially losing, right? Like, at least you're top 8, at least you're not going to go out in the first rounds. But as Josh RT says, it's like, look, it doesn't really matter. If you place 12th or 8th, who cares, right? Like, it's still basically last place. What matters is making sure you're well prepared to try and win the damn tournament. So I think that's the conclusion, really. If we lose in Swiss All playoffs, we deserve to lose. So it's like, top 12, top 8, top 6, like whatever, right? But at least if you start in the Swiss stage, maybe you give yourself an equal footing with some of the other teams that are gathering momentum through the tournament. At least the tournament starts the same way for every team. This mainly addresses the different conditions that a third of the field experiences compared to the other. Keep coping, buddy, says Leaf. 1 out of 7 in the last 2 Masters. You're coping, pal. So I thought that was pretty funny. But Shazam says that he had this convo with Riot. They talked to Riot about this. They had this discussion at some point. And Shazam says, back in 2021, they considered skipping days of matches as an advantage. But I always felt like that made you start cold. Stage time, match reps feel so valuable, especially in a circuit where you barely play any games anyway. Don't know what the best solution is, but some way to still make regional wins feel significant, while also making sure every team starts the same at Masters. So I think most teams are probably in agreement now, most players are in agreement that they would prefer to do this. Sassy, of course, gives his perspective and says, well, technically going to the playoffs and giving the chance to watch others play gives you the tactical advantage. And also those teams get to select their opponent. But of course, that's also randomized, really. So it's not necessarily like Fnatic had to play Gen.G, which was just tough, really. Because maybe they could have played another more beatable team that came through the group stages. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered, right, with the first seed curse, whatever you want to say. But yeah, Sassy's overall perspective is there a way to make this more worthwhile? Could it affect your performance against teams that have played a couple of games already? Maybe, right? And the equity of this situation is something that we probably are worth thinking about. So tweet your thoughts in the comments below. The upper semi-finals, of course, are going to happen tomorrow, but the losers bracket is going to happen today. So G-Light Gaming G2, RRQ Fnatic. Those are the 2 games. I'm expecting G2 to start making the run. RRQ Fnatic is real interesting. I think that Fnatic are my favourites for that series. But honestly, who knows, right? It's 2 number 1 seeds in the Pacific and EMEA. One of them's going to go out top 8. And, that's going to be a big controversial point again on this issue. But very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.